Prospector Paul here. Hey, we're going to do some maintenance on the rig. We're going to change out the springs on the 26RR Gray Wolf toy hauler because we don't have a heck of a lot of suspension on the passenger side anymore. There's about 3/4 of an inch up there. So I got some springs, got a couple of kits to replace all the bushings and the bolts and put all that in and brand new. And we're going to upgrade to the Lippert Road Armor suspension, and what that'll do is kind of make it more ride like a torsion axle. So it's a major improvement, and we'll get these springs in here and that'll definitely help out a bunch, and we should be able to go down the road nice and straight and pretty comfortable. Okay, so I ordered this kit from Amazon. It's MoRyde, and unfortunately these are 2 1/4 inch shackles. Now that's exactly what I have here, is 2 1/4 inch. I can show you that. That's center to center is 2 1/4. The problem is, because I'm adding this, when you center that onto that bolt, see how that brass fittings are much lower than the current here, let me try and put this up on the tripod here. Because this shackle's up here and this hole's way down here, I need 3 1/8 inch shackles. So I had to order 3 1/8 shackles. Hey, we're gonna fix some issues on this rig. I noticed that the passenger side of the vehicle was leaning pretty hard. Looks like the springs have failed. So if you look, I only have about 3/4 of an inch to an inch clearance on the passenger side. I can see some rubbing inside of here. I only have about 2 fingers worth of space. We'll go to the other side and see what we got going on there. So on this side, I still got some rubbing inside, but there's nothing up top here. But I have over 2 3/4 of an inch of space in there. I mean, I can get 4 fingers in there, no problem. So we're going to upgrade the springs today. So one of the things we need to do is upgrade these nylon bushings in the springs, and we're going to put brass in there. So what I found is, try and get this on the tripod, I found that a 7/16 socket fits that pretty good. A couple of taps and that's out of there. We're going to get rid of this plastic or nylon bushing, put in a nice brass one, and then we're going to put in a bolt that's greasable so that we extend the life of this. So here's what the kit looks like all opened up. You can see the nice brass bushings and the greasable bolts, got a little zerk on the end. And again, these bolts, or these nuts, I'm sorry, are oval shaped. Let me get one out of there. Okay, so these bolts are oval shaped. You can see it's a little longer this way than it is across this way. And the reason for that is so that they lock on, and that's the end of them, they seal. But you can only use these once, so you don't want to put them on till you're absolutely ready. So when you put these bolts in, you got your zerks, and then you see this hole in the bolt, so the grease goes through and then comes out in here and lubricates your brass bushings and your shackles. So it's a major upgrade, and should last a heck of a lot longer than it did. So I've taken all the brass bushings off the bolt. I'm going to put these in the springs. I'm going to use this bolt to drive them in. It's just a 1/2 inch bolt, and the reason I want to use this bolt is because this one has these splines in it. So you don't want to use this to drive them in. You're going to get it stuck in the brass, and it's going to create a lot of problems. So just get yourself about a 2.5 inch bolt that's 1/2 inch diameter, and we're going to use that to pound these in. Pretty simple. Just place your bushing in the spring, put your bolt on there, and just a few taps with a hammer. There we go. Just like that. Don't worry about getting it perfectly centered as the bolt draws in. It'll drive that bushing whichever way it needs to be. So I went ahead and jacked up the rig and installed some jack stands in the back and in the front of the suspension on this side. I'm going to leave the tires on the other side. You need to look up your manufacturer's recommended way that you jack the trailer up and the way you support it. This is how it works for my trailer. You need to find out what works for your trailer. Okay, back to it. Okay, here's a little update. We got the rig supported, we got the wheels off, and then I've gone ahead and already taken off the bolts that hold the spring on and the 4 down here. So the next step is to take these shackles off. That one comes off pretty easy. And then we'll get that one out right here. And we should be able to drop that spring and put the new spring on. Back in a flash. Okay, so I put the old shackle back on. It's not tight, I can just move that. And then I put the new Lippert or MoRyde bolt through here. This is the new wet bolt. Now I didn't adjust this axle at all. You can tell there's a little more arc in the spring because I can't make these threads. These threads right here, the plate won't go in there, so I'm going to have to lift the axle up in order to get the plate back on. So that tells me there's a lot more arc in these springs. Okay, now we got more thread to work with here, so I can get this plate back on. Goes this way. This spring's got to go, this axle's got to move a little bit so that drops into that pin. Okay. The axle down, put in the pin. Pin. There it goes. That fell down in there. These go like so. Just like that. Okay, got the other leaf spring out, getting ready for the new install. Looking at the old one, the bushing was pretty tore up in it already. That little plastic you can see hanging out. This one was pretty beat up too. Alright, install the new one. Okay, so as you can see, we got some pretty significant frame damage. The shackle is that way about an inch. So we're going to use this come along, pull the frame over, and then we're going to bolt some 4-inch C-channel in there, and hopefully that'll help stabilize this side. We'll do the same to the other side, and then we're going to put some legs across there, probably some 2x3 channel or tubing, and that'll help support both sides of it. Alright, so we're going to pull this over and get the bolting a new piece of steel on. Okay, so we moved to the other side. We've got the jack stand in place, the jacks in place, and the wheels off the drums. So now all we're going to do is let the axles back down and then start taking the springs off. Okay, so we got the old springs out of there, and the axles are sitting on jacks. What we're going to do is put these springs in, and we're going to put the band forward, and you also got to watch out for this notch. That's got to go in that plate. There's a hole right here for that bolt. That keeps everything centered. But for now, we're going to hang the springs on the front and the far aft so that they're in like that, and then we'll connect the middle, get these U-bolts on, and go from there. Okay, got the leaf spring installed. This is just finger tight. Did the same on the other end. And then I installed the Lippert Road Armor. So now what we're going to do is raise these up. These have to go above. So I'm going to probably have to raise both axles up out of the way. And then we'll put these shackles on. And that'll allow this to ride exactly right. Then you put your plates on. And your nuts. Okay. We'll get a tightening on these because these, oh shoot, don't matter. These three, you still have to drive those through, drive those splines in. Then we're going to let these axles down. There's a little hole up here onto that pin. So that'll be the next step. Okay, I'll let both axles down, and they're nearly on that pin. But I'm going to have to take the jacks right out and have to move the axle this way or this way to get them to drop on. Same with the one back there. We'll see how that works. Okay, so we got those leaves somewhat tightened down. Now that should provide, once I lift that up, that should allow me to move that around a little more. Alright, so we had to put a jack in here to pull this up, but that axle did drop in. So now I can put the base plate on and the U-bolts. Then I can let the pressure off of this and everything should be good. Alright, so everything's torqued down to 50 pounds. The U-bolts. I torqued those down to 90. So the only thing left to do is to grease the fittings and put the wheels back on. Okay, so we still have to drive these bolts in and get that spline to go that way. A little better example of where I got to drive that spline in. You can see that. So what I'm going to use, I just have a little socket, 7/16 socket or a 9/16 socket on an extension. And what that does is keeps me from breaking that zerk off. There we go. Now you don't break this zerk off. So, try driving it in a little bit. Getting there. Then I'm going to go outside and tighten down the nut, and that'll help pull that in. And then I'll have to drive it a little more and it should be set. Okay, torquing down the suspension bolts on this side. Shackle bolts. Got it set for 50 pounds. There's 50. Yep. Okay. And then we just got to grease these zerks. That's that one. Alright, so the grease just coming out of the top up there. That was 7 pumps. About what the other side took. There we go. Okay, rinse and repeat. Finish up the rest of them and I'm done. Alright folks, that's going to wrap this video up. Hopefully you learned something about upgrading the suspension on the 26RR Grey Wolf toy hauler. I did get the frame straightened out. That C-channel worked pretty good, and the post running across there really stiffened that up. A little bit about next week. I'm going to have so next week we're going to have a video with some rocks in it and some links to eBay. I'll be selling the rocks. You can help support the channel that way. And I just printed 100 of these stickers. Prospector Paul, Gold Diggers Wanted. Came up with that idea on the way to the bar, not in the bar. So I think it's a good one. But yeah, we'll have some stickers available, and that'd be a great way to help support the channel. I mean, obviously life on the road, you know, costs something. It's still a heck of a lot cheaper than sticks and bricks living. And yeah, it's all good. Okay, so hopefully you found this video helpful, and you can upgrade your suspension too if you need to. And until next week, Prospector Paul out.